So hi, everybody. I'm Rod Toaston, and it might be a little tough to see there, but it says, who am I? So I'm just going to share a little bit about who I am here in this PowerPoint presentation. So first of all, Rev Rod comes to mind. This is a picture of me doing a ceremony. I do wedding ceremonies for free. If you need anything, please feel free to reach out, and I'd be more than happy to help you there. Mechanic, I can work on cars too. This is back in the day with another mechanic, and I'm happy to work on cars that might have been maybe, I don't know, 45 years ago. But I can still do it. I can crawl underneath the car if I have to. Wear a lot of different hats here at Gettysburg College. I can also do construction. Oh,
hey, Rod, can you kind of move on out of your personal life? Can we get to like a Gettysburg introduction?
Yeah, soon. Okay. Soon. Thank you. I can do concrete. Oh, there's a picture of me as a faculty member. So I'm a faculty member here at Gettysburg College. Also, I'm a vice president of IT. That's my vice president picture.
Very nice.
I'm a donor. So this is myself and my wife, at the last celebration for the campaign. So I'm a graduate, 85 graduate. So I'm a donor too. We like to have dinner together every once in a while.
Okay.
And we travel too. We go to...
Rod.
Yeah?
Great photos, but we are on a time restriction, and this is professional, not personal.
Okay. Just let me get through a couple more pictures here. That's the Great Wall. We cycled in Vietnam too. I cut Christmas trees, and I like trains, and this is us chasing a train. So let me just get on with things.
Fantastic.
Oh, I like restoring cars. That's one of my hobbies too. You can see some of the information about my car there. It'll pop right out and it has nice colors. Oh, here's something about me. This is all my publications. So I've written a lot of articles and everything too, and I have students. There's one there in the middle that's really interesting if you can pick it out.
We can't see it, Rod.
Oh, can't?
No, the font's really small.
Oh, sorry about that. I'm in the Innovation and Creativity Lab. You can do all kinds of fancy stuff here. We have 3D printers, we have laser cutters, CNC machines, 3D printers, and Josh Wagner, who's on the Zoom here with us. So did I mention we have 3D printers? We have laser cutters, CNC machines, resin 3D printers, and Josh Wagner is the manager.
Did you figure out how to animate your slides, Rod?
Yeah, there's so many cool things you can do with animations. It's awesome.
Yes,
it's an eye catcher. Cool.
Yes.
Oh, file not found. Well, this did work on my machine. I guess I should have tested it on this machine.
Probably.
Really, honestly, I don't know what happened. It worked on my machine. I don't know why it's not working here.
You've been standing in there for 30 minutes. You could have done that.
I could have. And here's us chasing a train again. Oh, you said no personal things.
Yeah, come on, click.
The train's moving.
Yeah, I see it, but click.
Oh, I had two separate videos here, but somehow I just got them overlapped, and I'm sorry. So that's who I am. I'm Rod Toaston, and I got a lot of things going on.
Yeah, can you stop sharing your screen? Because that first slide was just making me dizzy with the colors and everything that you had. Okay, so we saw Rod from when he had hair up until now when he's the VP of IT. So just kind of want to throw it out there. If you saw anything in there that you thought wasn't really a good technique, or maybe you've seen some presentations in classes by peers or even faculty that just didn't have anything really great, we're going to put you into a breakout room. And in those breakout rooms, we want you to share your name and why you signed up for this. I mean, it's a Friday afternoon during break. Why did you really sign up for this? And share an example of a poor presentation. Rod had a lot in his presentation that was poor, a lot. And then why did you think it was poor? So we'll give you about 5 minutes to do that. Josh is going to throw you in some groups, and go ahead.
Thanks for hitting our recording there, Josh. As you're coming back from your breakout rooms, please jump into Mentimeter and, just what were some of the core aspects of a full
Eyesore.
presentation or an eyesore?
I wonder if they're regarding your own image.
Wow, I don't know. I'm not going there. And what's poor about my presentation or poor about other presentations?
Oh, you don't want to take all of it on?
No, there might be a different one they want to comment on. They might not want to just comment on mine, but if they want to, that's fine too.
I like the word dynamic because dynamic can be a very positive thing, but it can also be a little bit too dynamic.
That's true. Oh, if you all have just seen that train going through the tunnel below us, that
would have been fantastic, huh?
Oh, regardless of whether it was meant to be or fit what we were doing or not, it's just a cool video. Was busy.
Cringy. Oh, I like that word, cringy.
Like, does it really have to show us a picture from when he was 17? Cringy is a good word. I like that.
Off track, no pun intended, with your train.
Yeah, with the trains. Hard to follow, hard to read, unfinished. Overlapping. There we go.
So it looks like just about everybody's back.
Yes.
All right. Well, if you still have some descriptions of words that you wanted to help describe what is a poor presentation, continue to put them in our Mentimeter. And as you can see, we asked Rod when we were planning this to spend some time making a really poor introduction. He says it was hard for him to do. I don't know if it really was hard for him to do, but I get to be the person now to show you what is in a good presentation and some skills that you can hone up. And then we will give you an opportunity to apply these skills, right? So we don't want it to be distracting, right? Like that's a big thing. When we're given a presentation, we want to be very sleek and we want it to be to the point. So my name is Devonna Stebik. I have taught some of you. Some of you may have known me, from across campus. So that's to the point. You kind of want to know who is this person. I'm a professor in the education department. I've been in the field of education before I was even born, because I've been in the field of education for 26 years, but that was like before I was born. I'm not that old. And I really like teaching courses dealing with literacy, special education, adolescent identity, young adult literature, creativity. So all of that. If you ever take a class from me, you will absolutely have to give a presentation. Macy and Katie could vouch for that. And it may be an impromptu presentation, or it might be a really well-planned one. And when we looked at your feedback of what you were expecting to get out of today's session, we saw both. And so we designed this to give you tips on how you can, in fact, go ahead and learn from both. So can you see my screen? Okay. So as you're looking at my screen, I decided to use the same template. That really wasn't planned, but this is the template that I was using. So it's actually kind of cool because you're going to be able to see how you can make this template, which Rod thought was obnoxious, really work for you. We will share this template, this link with you. And so you don't have to take notes. You can just kind of enjoy the show. So when you're looking at you, when you are designing a presentation, it should emanate you. Like your voice should be part of it, your identity, your personality, your knowledge. So don't forget that. Rod was a little overboard. We know too much about him, but you don't want to use media to hide yourself. You want to use media to kind of enhance yourself. You want the audience to learn about you because they came to hear you. Maybe it's forced, maybe it's in a class, but they're still there to hear you. And you also want to make sure you're going to do this from the slides or overheads, and then just send them the slides. So that's what we're going to do for you. I'm using my slides now, and then I'll send them to you later, so you're not so busy writing it down. Now, I know that's not everyone's learning preference. So if you are someone who's like, I really just need the slide in front of me to write it down, find that out from your audience ahead of time. And most importantly, Only you can prevent death by PowerPoint. So give me a clap if you have ever been in a lecture or a peer's presentation where it was death by PowerPoint. Yeah, I see some hands. Yeah, that's happened. That has definitely happened. Use a template. Microsoft PowerPoint has these great templates. You all have access to Microsoft 365. That's where all of this is. That's what we use to design and set up and plan this whole thing. I'm using some, just some quick icons to kind of catch your attention. So I set the font and color scheme, and I used Microsoft. I was like, okay, which colors go with this? And do I still like those colors? Different styles are disconcerting to the audience. Do you remember when Rod had like his title slide? He had like a plaid. I think it was like blue and orange. He was trying to like show Gettysburg pride, but it was kind of Gettysburg puke. So like, yeah, that can be really negative. And some of you even said that when you said it was distracting or cringy. And you want the audience to focus on what you're presenting and not the way you present. So the slide that he had was so many different animations for how he was showing like what you can find in the ICL. That was obnoxious. We were looking at how he was going to do it. Oh, what's the next animation going to be for the bullet point? Instead of seeing what does the ICL really have. You also want a really clean font. Roman and Gothic are the best to use for PowerPoints. Script is very hard to use, and so is comic. Now, if you've ever taken a teaching methods class with me, you know I say to use comic when you're given handouts to students, because comic is a very easy font for students who have dyslexia or other learning differences to read. But in a PowerPoint, you want to stick with Roman and Gothic. And like, don't change your font. It's okay to like go underlining, bold, italic if you know you want to emphasize something, but don't go crazy changing your font. And keep each bullet to one line, 2 at the most. So do you see how I strategically did that? Right? So you could see that. Limit the number of bullets in a screen to 6. Remember these tips because it will help people focus on what you're presenting instead of how you're presenting it. And just a little side note, Rod and I are going to be in a presentation with the trustees on Monday, and I'm going to see if he's applying these in the slides that he shows. All right. Bullets should allow you to cue the audience on what you're going to say next. We had no idea what Rod was going to say next when he was introducing the 3D printers, the laser cutter, and the CNC, because we're like, oh, is it going to bubble? Is it going to like fly in? Is it going to like disappear? So you just want it to be this brief preview of what you're about to say, and then it gives them this framework so they can, in fact, follow along. And that's what bullets are. Think of outlining, right? I'm sure you had an English teacher in high school who taught you how to outline, and it was bullets, and that was to cue your thinking, to cue your brain so you'd have a framework on which to build upon for your writing. Caps and italics. Oh my gosh, there were several points where Rod used all caps. When I get a text from my husband and it's all caps, it means he's pretty mad. If you send a text in all caps out of the blue, it means you're probably having some emotion that you want them to be aware of. Capitalization is really important, and those rules are really important to follow. One of the other things is because it doesn't allow you to really use acronyms appropriately, because acronyms obviously are all caps. Italics, just again, stick with italics when you need to have quotes, or you want to highlight somebody's thoughts, or you want to include the title from a book, a journal, or a magazine, so they know, okay, this is the content, or this is the bullet point that they want me to know from this, but this is where it came from. Again, it's helping them in their brains to kind of sort the information that they're getting from you. Colors, oh my gosh, Rod and I are using the same template, but his colors were stinking obnoxious. So here, you see red and oranges are high energy, but they still could be difficult to focus on. So if you want a high energy slide, which I'm going to show you shortly, great. But really think about how you're going to design that. Greens, blues, and browns are a little bit more mellow and not as attention grabbing. So it's a Friday afternoon in January. It is 32 degrees at my house right now. It is windy, it's miserable. So I wanted mellow, I just wanted green. But I want you to remember it, so I made sure I had a very clean area with my font and my text and my content. Well, then I'm going to show you some backgrounds, right? A white on dark background is used for a presentation. So this kind of slide is only used if you assume that most viewers will view the presentation on their own computer. So if I wasn't sharing this, I am sharing this. So this is a good color for me to use. And this is something I learned. I didn't know that because synchronous virtual teaching is new to me. I've never done like multiple semesters in a row of this. And it helps to reduce the glare. So look out this semester, man. I'm going to start to use darker backgrounds because I know I have the great glasses, because sometimes I'm on screen from 7 in the morning till 7 at night and my eyes hurt. So I'm really going to try this dark background thing. All right. Also consider the color wheel. So raise your hand or give me a thumbs up if you like the arts. Okay. So you already probably know a little bit about the color wheel, but just remember this. If you want to have contrasting colors, look at the color wheel, and they're separated by another color. So if you want to get a good point across and you want the colors to contrast, pick them so they're separated by another color. Adjacent colors, so like yellow and green, they're going to harmonize. So if your message is really like, okay, these are some big ideas, but people need to start bringing them together and synthesize this, then consider the different colors. And then if you really want to show some opposition, then you go clear across the color wheel, such as yellow and purple. So that's a slide that you might want to remember. Attention grabber, right? Like, let's do this again. Whoa, right? Green, but this is back to Rod style. This is obnoxious. Purple, yeah, purple's my favorite color, but it flying in like that is just so tacky. So yes, change the font or the background, but be smart about it. Ask a friend if how bad it is. All right. Then sometimes we want illustrations, right? Because you want to capture something different. You don't want just words. But don't use it just to become pretty. Don't use it because you don't have any words to say. Oh yeah, I've seen student presentations like that. Let's put some pictures on so nobody asks me questions about the data. Yeah, it doesn't work that way. So you want to make sure that it relates and it makes the point. So Rod, God bless him, he had lots of photos to show of what he does outside. And then he did get to the photos that, capture him as now, but we can see him who he is now, right? So it wasn't important for him to show that nice glamour shot of his, his VP of IT photo. We didn't need, because we see him now. And then ask yourself this question when you're done designing it. Does it make the message clear? Do I need that on there? Am I going to refer to that as I'm talking? That's a really important question to ask yourself. Will you refer to that image when you're talking? Will that help explain the content? If it's just there to take up space and be pretty, not so much. And then simple diagrams are great communicators. So here, you can see the images I selected, pretty simple, and they're my bullet points. So I got a 2-for-1 deal. Flip charts. Oh my gosh, I'm talking about flip charts. That's not a PowerPoint presentation, but sometimes you don't want to use PowerPoint. And this was brought up in some of your goals for this session. What do I do if it's not a PowerPoint? Flip charts are great to use. They're in lots of classrooms. Just make your letters at least 1/4 of the height of the flip chart. And then flip charts with lines like I have on here are obviously much easier to write on. I'm famous for writing uphill, and that just kind of gets distracting and kind of takes away from the content. This is another slide that you might want to refer to in the future. But it was something that I found as I was preparing for this. This is not information that I knew ahead of time, but I know it does matter. So depending on the screen size, what size you are using for your font and how many feet away it is. So 1/4 inch type shown on a screen size of 6 feet can be seen 30 feet away. And that would equal 20 point times. And that's the rule I've always used is 20 point. So when I'm making a PowerPoint, if I'm in a classroom, I usually use 20 point. Now that I'm teaching virtually, I don't always use 20 point because I know they have it in front of them. Again, Don't hide yourself. Remember, people came to see you, whether they were forced in a class or they volunteered. And you want to make sure everything that you choose enhances your presentation and doesn't take away from it, because you have the knowledge. You get to bring yourself together. And finally, don't be that person that's death by PowerPoint. Yeah, don't be that person. So there's a resource here that has some really great tips if you want to further it. But now we're going to go on to the next part where you actually get to do some practice and apply what you have learned. So let me stop sharing. I'd hidden that. Okay, so at this point, you are going to help us with admissions, right? We know these are trying times, and we're trying to recruit the Gettysburg greatest. And so we're working with admissions, and they're looking for some quick slide presentations that they could use either to send to a prospective student or to use when they come in and they're in that big, beautiful waiting room. So it's just going to be a 3 to 4 minute presentation. So you already introduced yourselves to one another in a group, and you're going to go back into that group and you're going to think about your introduction. You're going to open a PowerPoint file. So somebody in that group needs to open a PowerPoint or a Google Slides or a Keynote or something and share. And in your group, you're going to create a slideshow using the tips that you just learned. So keep the slides to maybe 3 to 5. If you're going to use any content like images or quotes or anything, please go to the Gettysburg College website for licensing purposes. Because then so whatever you click and save that image, we already have the license for it, so admissions could use that. So does that make sense?
And we'll give you about 25 minutes.
Yep, we'll give you 25 minutes, and then when you're done, we're going to put you in, we're going to match your groups. You're going to be with another group, and you're going to get to share your presentation, and there'll be a checklist for you to follow of what you should or should not include.
One presentation per group.
Yes. Any questions?
Excellent.
All right.
Thank you. And you're going to walk them through this, Devonna, right?
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to go on mute.
Okay. Welcome back.
Hello, welcome back, everyone.
I think we would collectively agree this was not our best work.
Oh, come on now. You're already having a disclaimer.
Yes, there's a super disclaimer on ours.
I'm guessing it's better than what mine was.
Okay, so welcome back, everybody. We're hoping you had enough time to at least get the best that you could do on a Friday afternoon. We've heard from a couple of you that this isn't your best work, but we will look at that. So I just put a link in the chat to my PowerPoint. And then at the end of my PowerPoint is a checklist that we will also share with you that you can use to kind of as a guide to guide your conversation with the other group that you're going to form with. So when you get back out there and your groups will be bigger this time, hopefully somebody from your group will be willing to share the presentation. And then everybody in the other group should do the checklist and give you feedback. So you should be able to hear or see feedback from every member of the other group, and then flop roles. Does that make sense? Thumbs up. Okay, I'm seeing some thumbs. So I'm going to take that as it makes sense. If you have a question, raise your hand. Let's do it that way, or put it in the chat. Okay. All right, Josh, the master of groups.
Yes, and just so everybody knows, there will be one group that has 3 groups within it just because of how many rooms we had. So that group, you'll share all 3 of your presentations together.
All right, we'll give you about 10 minutes to do this. Thanks. And we might have to give them more than 10 minutes.
Oh, we can.
Yeah. We're
We're
ahead of
still,
schedule.
Sophie, I noticed that you're unassigned right now. What room were you originally in? Who were you with?
I think it was number 4, but the people in it was Will Newsome and sorry, I can't remember everyone's name. But...
Okay, as long as Will is in there, I can put you in it. It'll be
okay. Yeah, he was in my group, and then it was 2 other girls. I forgot their names though.
Okay, great. Yeah, it'll be room number 3. I'll put you in it right now.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yep.
And it doesn't look like anybody dropped out already.
can you find it? Can you find it on the old one? Oh, sorry, doing a little business here again while everybody's coming back. It looks like everybody is back. So, how'd we do? Anybody like to share? Any thoughts from the 2 breakout sessions?
I mean, I thought we had the 3 group one, and I thought everyone did a pretty good job and basically hit like a lot of the check marks that were on that at the bottom of the PowerPoint.
Okay, Katie, I'm going to make you dig a little deeper because I know you can. So you're like, okay, I thought everybody did pretty well. Could you highlight something that a group did really well that you're like, oh, I like how they did this?
Yeah, I think for both groups, I'm not exactly sure which it was, but I know for both of the groups with the pictures and stuff we chose, we definitely, everyone definitely chose good colors. There was nothing that was too much on any of the slides. And also the fonts were very noticeable. It was very easy to read what they were trying to say and that kind of thing. It wasn't distracting what was on the screen. So it was easy to follow along as it was going on. And then with transitions and animations, I don't think any of us really got around to that, but maybe if there was a little bit of more time, we could have.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So someone from another group, please.
Did you see a habit people were still had that might not have been a good thing to have? We don't need names or anything, just anything that popped up that, don't do that kind of thing.
Something that our group kind of noticed after we went through all 3 of ours is that the ones that had less words on our slides and more visuals were much more compelling and just way easier to understand. So we thought that we concluded, I guess, that it's good to stick with less words and just necessary information. And for example, one of the groups had a really cool map that showed us the distance that Gettysburg is from main cities and stuff. But instead of writing that, we actually saw the visual, which was way more helpful in my opinion. So yeah, we thought definitely using more visuals and way less words is definitely a good strategy.
That sounds great with the map idea.
Yes.
Very well done. I like that idea. So think back to the second breakout that you had when you were designing the presentation. What was the hardest part of that? What was the biggest challenge for your group?
I would say for our group, it was the getting started, because we had multiple different, kind of opinions, and no one really wanted to take the lead. And I didn't want to take the lead because I wanted the students to also help. So I think that part, and then just knowing where to start. And I think that's a strategy in general. When there's something you either don't know how to do or don't want to start doing, just start it. Start anywhere and then kind of build out from there. So I think that was the getting started was the hardest part.
Hannah, you bring up a good point. How do I even get started with PowerPoint? And what I usually do is I just have some main topics and I don't try to organize them yet. I just throw out a bunch of blank slides, throw the topics as titles. Doesn't have to be the final title, doesn't have to look good or anything. Slide them around, and then that's kind of how I want to tell my story. I always think of a PowerPoint of telling a story, and so, you know, what's the big goal? Break it down into chapters, and then I go back, maybe put in a couple more slides around that topic, or just one slide, or flush out the bullet points. I think one of the things, a very good observation about less words and more diagrams, photos, images, it takes longer to get those images or find those images or ones that convey exactly than just slamming a bunch of words onto the screen or a bunch of bullet points. So it does take a little bit more work to find those perfect images that convey what you want to convey to reduce down your number of words, but definitely it's a payoff if you can.
And I just want to kind of capitalize on what Rod said, and he's going to smile when I say this. And so, yes, you have to think of your content, but before you think of your content, you have to remember the goal of your presentation. So what do you want your audience to walk away with? And have that at the top of your slides. Or if you sketch it out on a piece of paper, oh my gosh, like use paper. Like, you know, that's how I was taking notes on Rod's atrocious introduction. But you want to like map that out and anchor it so you have all this content, and then you go back, as he was saying, and, you know, and map it out. And the beauty of, you know, PowerPoint slides or Keynote or Google Slides is you can slide everything around. What else was kind of a challenge for you? Collaboration is a challenge, especially when you're just dropped into this, you know, Friday afternoon group. So we knew that was going to be a challenge, but we know you're like Gettysburg great people, so that you could overcome that.
Hey, can we open up the general Q&A? I'm conscious of our time here. And this is anonymous. And this is where you get to, I call it stump the experts, maybe. I don't know. So you can throw some questions in there if you have any questions for Josh or Devana or myself related to presentations or related to putting together slide decks or something like Prezi or anything. Anytime you have some kind of the questions just rolling in there, Josh, or we need to prime the pump a little bit?
So far, none have come in.
No questions. Oh, there's got to be some questions out there. I just know it.
Here we go. Now we're getting some.
Devana, this looks like you.
Okay, so how should my sources be organized? This is kind of up to the requirements that you have to follow. Sometimes at the end, you can just have all of your sources. You know how Rod had all of his publications listed? And that's fine if it's so tiny and you don't want people to take notes on it. You can just say, oh, my sources are here. You could use superscript and footnotes to do it on each slide. I am an APA person. That's how I cite my things. And a slide at the end sharing where I got my sources is fine. Next question.
Good question.
This is a really good one. This is when you need to teach your brain how to survey and select. And this is why you want that goal or the question or questions to be at the forefront. And if the information does not answer that question, then it's not important enough. But that doesn't mean you have to discard it. You can just like put it off to the side and maybe you'll use it later in the semester or on a different presentation.
I know I had a hard time, not selecting some photos. It was tough figuring out what photos to bring into my introduction. I get this. What I usually do is I throw everything in and then start cutting stuff out or sliding slides to the end or something like that. But it's a good question. Put it all in and then take it out after you practice it.
Nerves. We did not talk about this, but this is all about rehearsing. So Rod really did rehearse before he came on. He had to rehearse how to be bad. I mean, I'm totally bashing him, but he's a great teacher and a great presenter. The best way to do it is to have something. Like I have a stress ball here at my house. And so when I'm in meetings that are stressing me out, I use that. I have silly putty that I squish around. If you're in like face to face, putting your hands in your pockets and, pacing back and forth, not to be a distraction, or just ground yourself. But the best way to do this is rehearsing, and you can't rehearse just in front of yourself. So rehearse in front of a mirror, rehearse in front of a couple friends. If we're still virtual and we can't be together, then rehearse with people, on another end of the Zoom.
One of the things I do, and first of all, the nerves will always be there. I haven't found that moment where I'm not nervous. I was nervous today. I always get nervous. So recognize that they're going to be there. And how do you deal with them? So for me, I need time to settle into the presentation, a minute or two. So I have a slide that is a picture of Penn Hall with the flag on top. And when I'm doing a professional presentation, I just say, hey, I'm from Gettysburg College, and here's a picture of Penn Hall. It was used as a hospital. Can somebody count the number of stars up there and tell me if it's 50 or not? And then people laugh because, you can't count the stars. So then I go in and talk to them about 34-star flag. And I've done that so many times, I can do that. And that settles me in, helps me connect with the audience. So every presentation, and that just helps me.
That's the question we have for you. How dare you ask us that question? If there was a single bit of information to take away from today, what is it? That Rod's a mechanic?
Yeah, concrete and carpentry too.
Yeah, we seriously are going to ask you that question shortly, but that is very personal. So it's a matter of where you came in, because everybody's coming in with a different amount of presentations from different fields and from different personal goals.
I think for me, I can answer it for myself. I still am a little wordy and I have too many bullets.
Okay, what's the best way to practice a presentation? In front of a mirror, record yourself. I mean, there are so many options now to record yourself on your computer and then watch it. It is painful, but in the field of teaching, we do this all the time. People have to record themselves teaching, and then we talk about what they did, what they didn't do. And it's that reflection process that's going to help ground you for the next time. Again, this varies for the purpose. So if your audience is teenagers, 3 minutes max. If it's for like celebration, you want it to be probably about 5 minutes. If it's for like a class presentation and it has to be 30 minutes, you have to figure out then how to engage people and make it as interactive as possible without distracting. So like the thumbs up that we did, I often ask my audience to smile if they understand something, but just do something so they have some sort of like a physical movement to stay engaged. So for this one, some people like the entire script written out, and it depends on how you write a paper. So think about how you go about writing a paper. Do you like map it out in your head first? Do you draft it first? Do you outline it first? Before you put any content that you've learned, and this just comes from the field of psychology and learning, before you put any content that you learned to paper or to a presentation, you need to talk about it. And so if you have, study buddies or peers or, even phone home, call your parents once in a while and tell them what you've learned. And then you'll know how much you need. It is always better to have more written down than what you think you need than not, because then you can always go back to that and look at your notes from your slides or look at your script, and it gives you a place to rehearse. Rod had too many slides. and that, again, that really matters with the content. Like if you're showing something in the sciences and they need to see, multiple images to see how something changes, then that's appropriate. If you're talking about how a second grader is learning to read, you probably don't need multiple photos for that. So again, go back to what is the purpose of your presentation? Yeah, that's hard because when you start to watch what you've recorded, then you're like picking it apart and you record it again and you're picking it apart and record it again. And you can't be a perfectionist. And I mean, if the goal of the presentation was to perfectly share something, then that's what you have to do. But I would go back to what is the purpose of your presentation and does it meet the requirements? So as Rod said, organize your content however you do. As I'm saying, anchor that into the goals and the questions that you have to answer, and then get it over with.
It's tough. It's tough.
It's tough.
The concept of being recorded, it is. And this is a great question.
Yeah. And I'm like Rod, I will be honest, if I'm not anxious about a lesson that I'm teaching or a presentation I'm giving, then I think I should get out of what I'm doing. And so as soon as I start feeling a little too comfortable and I don't have that anxiety, then I hope I'm not in the field of education anymore. So yeah, I was nervous today. Absolutely.
And that also, if I'm comfortable and I'm not worried about a presentation, that means that I'm not ready.
Mm-hmm.
That's my sign to myself that, boy, you're missing something. You need to go back. You should be nervous about this. So you're not putting enough effort into it. So that's a sign to me that I have some more work to do.
So we get to ask you the question now, right, Rod?
That's right. So final breakout session. How will you apply your knowledge? And how will you test your knowledge? We'll give you about 5 minutes for this, and then we have one final word art that we want to see. So about 5 minutes.
Yep, just talk about this in your breakout.
I know we run over our time. Let's just go to the word art. Oh, there we go. Okay, thank you very much. Good to see everybody back. Sorry we've run over time. Not to do tip number 54, don't run over your time slot.
Yeah. And I'm going to share your email, Rod, so they can send their presentations to you, and then you can send them on to Daryl.
Sure. Sounds good. Send me your presentations.
And then we can send them on to the admissions office. So people found this to be engaging. Hopefully you found something that you can take away and apply it.
Samples, interaction tips. I like it. Useful for the future. Sure. I'm going to use some of the tips Monday night.
And if he doesn't, I'll let you know.
Yeah, I'll get critiqued again.
I'm so excited. I'm a participant.
I didn't even think about that until you mentioned it.
Yeah, you silly boy. Well, thank you, everybody. This was a great way to end my week. And if you have any follow-up questions, you can send them to Rod or myself. I'll put my email in there too. And if like you get to the point in the semester where you have to do a presentation and you're really nervous and you want to rehearse it with somebody, give me a call or send me a text or, shoot me an email or Rod. And we'd be happy, to be that person that's non-evaluative to help you.
Thank you all very much. We're just an email away. Thank you, Josh, for helping out and running this. And everybody have a great weekend and see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.